Good morning, or whatever time it is. Might even be good new year. 2 deliveries this morning. Well, one I had to go to the post office and collect because there's 20 quid. Can you believe that? Customs and Royal Mail admin charge on these couple of ball valves. The thing is, with these large bore 38mm 50.5 outside diameter, they're stiff as fuck. I'm hoping they'll ease off with use, but this is for my post-boil sort of filtration system. Anyway, that's that. I might put that together later, but I am going to have to build it onto a frame because this will connect onto the sight glass, and that's not good. We'll end up breaking the sight glass because this is a stiff. It's all stiff in the morning. The other thing, what arrived today is this. Handmade. Well, of course it's handmade. All barrels are handmade. You are pressed to find a machine to do this. Really nicely charred, which you won't be able to see. I don't know why I'm bothering to show you that, because that's a bit stupid. Ready for the brew that I'm going to do later today. And the brew I'm going to do later today is the first lambic. And the reason I'm going to do it later today is I'm going to get the cool ship over there, and it'll be the first brew that goes into the cool ship. I'm going to leave it overnight. Tomorrow, 1st of January, is when I stick it in the fermenter. So it's an experiment. I'm using spontaneous fermentation from all of the various different yeast cultures that are probably in here. And given some of the girls, never mind. So that is it. Nothing will go into this for a couple of weeks. I leave it overnight, spontaneously fermenting, then into a fermentation vessel, which will probably just be a bucket, and then after a couple of weeks I'm going to sit it on some raspberries and then plonk it in here for a couple of years. So that'll be fun, won't it? It could all go very, very badly wrong, but you know, optimistic. What else could go wrong this year? So anyway, that's it's 30 litre, this one. I'm going to start with 30 litre. I might get a couple of 20 litres, but then what I'm going to do is move up to 50 litres. And so I'll get kind of like a Solera, which is where you take from here, put it into another cask, take half from here, put it into another cask, top this one up, and the other cask when that's into a Solera. Google it, it's fun. But that's not what today's video is about, boys and girls. Today's video, or most of today's video, might put a little bit more in at the end when we've totally buggered up the lambic. The lambic will be a completely separate video, by the way, which might go on for a couple of years. Today's video is about something else which I've never really done, and it's something which I always talk to patients about. I've often had the idea of doing a scrapbook of just concert tickets, you know, little strange things that you pick up, especially concert tickets, because after you've done I don't know, probably, I've no idea. I mean, I used to go to a concert almost every week, and so getting all those tickets together, I got them going back right to the end of the 70s, and I always thought put them in a scrapbook, but never did. And then of course the tickets get lost and you never find them again. And there's other little things that I encourage patients to do. Just put memories in there, photos, just put like little notes that you've had or whatever. And it's a good thing to leave to your family after you've died. I don't like using the term pass. Let's just be honest, be straight, and so when you've gone, give something as a memory. People don't ever really die, actually. By the way, their body will stop working, but the person will always live on in the memories and those little thoughts that pop into your mind every now and then. Every time, sometimes, yeah, a little thought, a little memory will stick into it, and you find yourself smiling for no apparent reason. But a scrapbook is always helpful as well. And it's also useful. A lot of my colleagues and patients, I have to admit, we've had a couple of patients, generally all patients, who are also carers for people with dementia, I mean, just fuck that luck. I mean, just crikey. And for patients with dementia, a scrapbook can be a wonderful, wonderful, comforting thing. And sometimes will trigger memories from years ago. I've got one. He was married 50 years ago. And partner put a couple of photos of their wedding and children and young children at the beach. I can't remember where it was. Probably it might have been Scarborough or Bridlington, something like that. And the patient with dementia, and I'm going to have to be very careful because some people will know who I'm talking about, so not to identify them. The patient immediately recognised those photos and was quite touched by them. So it can be comforting and warming. My scrapbook. I've never had a scrapbook. I've never had an advent calendar. That's why I'm keeping it. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. Any suggestions on what to do with the advent calendar? I have got a couple of ideas, but yes. So this is my scrapbook, and I haven't had it long. I think it's only about £6. I probably haven't paid Charlotte for it, but I will do. I thought I'd do a sort of calendar, my sort of calendar for 2020 and 2021. So this is a crossing borders, crossing years calendar, a bit like the Lambic. The Lambic will be 2020, 2021. Because it will finish tomorrow. But this now is my little scrapbook, and I wanted to start it with just an idea of some of the breweries that I've kind of liked this year, and I haven't really put too much in here, but these are a couple of the breweries that I've really got into this year. But more importantly is what the scrapbook is about, and I thought I'd start the scrapbook of the year by just documenting the advent calendar. So this was day 1. What a great way to start an advent calendar. It was also day 13. Not so unlucky, eh? Ha ha ha. I don't know if Chris sort of meant that, but it's the way it turned out. Day 2 and 14 was the plum porter. Still a favourite. The best bitter, now that was a hell of a surprise. Brilliant, day 3 and 15. As was the pale ale. But the bitter, traditional, nice, beautiful Harrison's bitter, like it. Day 5 and 17 was this absolutely colossal porter, and of course proof of concept. My favourite, as it happens, 6 and 18. 7 and 19, the stout. 18 and 20, lockdown at Bernie's. We both grew these yeast starters, and I think we both did ours about the same time. We both got different brews out of it. Chris has got a really sessionable brew. I've got a 6.5 killer. Both good, but there we are, days 8 and 20. 9 and 21. Bjorn again using the Kveik yeast. That was a very, very interesting New England IPA. Beautiful, actually, but got to leave a little bit in the bottom of the can. Knock iron beer. I don't generally tend to go for Kolsch's, but that was drinkable. That was nice. And then we come to the final couple of days. This was outstanding, the 2020 Vision. It was also a bit of a colossal West Coast IPA, but full marks for the artwork on there and the sentiment. And of course the final day, 12 and 24, his kind of what do you call it, I suppose signature brew, Vacant Gesture, which seriously is growing on me, which is a bit of a pain in the arse because I might be running out. What a lot of people don't know is at the beginning of this year Chris had never canned any of his brews at all. When lockdown kicked in, he was faced with several choices of how he could try and keep the brewery and to an extent the pub, the brew shed going. So bought a seamer, bought a double seamer, which is the bit that seals the top of the can onto the can. I've got one over there, but nowhere near as sophisticated and professional as the one Chris bought. That was about $6,000, I think. And then he built his own canning line, which is the bit that pushes the cans along, dips the tubes in, fills them with CO2, fills them with beer, and then puff of CO2, and that preserves the beer ready to put the top on. He built that from scratch. Not only that, he had a collective of people doing the coding, and he's made the whole thing open source. So that was this year, and these were his first couple of can runs. And so these are the early labels. This is the new, nicer label. These are the early labels, and it took me ages to get these off the bloody can very, very carefully because they're paper. So that's a journey for me, thinking back on this year. And I also then thought, well, I'll pull some of the other, you know what you do when you get these cans where the labels come off, you stick them on the front of the fridge or on the kitchen door or stuff like that. And my fridge got full up, so I thought what I'll do, these are a couple that I nicked when I was over at Chris's. But what I'll do is I'll not stick them on the door anymore. These weren't ever on the door. These are two from Will Mayers over in Cambridge Brewing Company, Boston, Massachusetts. Cheers, Will. I'm doing your Flower Child again in the next few days after I've got this lambic out of the way. And this is one that uses the Solera. So what I mentioned earlier about the lambics going from one cask into another. This was stunning. I'm going to pop one onto some raisins and stuff and see if we can get a nice raisin sour. So the rest of it is sort of like some of the beers which I've enjoyed this year and some that I haven't, but with there's no particular order in any of those. This was from my favourite local sort of like large scale brewery, I suppose. A Substantial Meal, which kicked in, and Cryo, which is another of my favourite beers. And again, really, I'll just bang through some of these. Again, more from Chris's. Attic, what a discovery. Attic Brewery down in Birmingham. Hi guys, just put an online order in. Couldn't find these on their website. Chris dropped me these off. Beautiful. And so really, I won't go through all of these because it's a bit boring. I might though. Shall I? No, I think I've taken up enough of your life, haven't I? So kind of like beers of the year, really. Not the best, not always the nicest, but that's good. I recommend that. Actually, I recommend anything from Burning Sky. I should have put them on the front, but I didn't have a spare can to cut open. So yeah, this really then is a kind of chronological, not necessarily chronological, but a sort of documentary of my years of beer this year, and I will continue it next year, provided we're all still alive and we haven't been eaten by a huge cyber goat. There's some more anchor ones to go on here. I forgot to put them in. So there we are. Now the reason I'm going through all this absolute nonsense is that it's actually quite a therapeutic. That was shit. Fucking hell. I can always scan these and have a look at what I said on Untapped. But it's a therapeutic thing to do, especially, and at the moment, I won't carry on because it's a bit sad, that, isn't it? But fun. It has been, without doubt, the most challenging year in human history for our generation, for our human history. There have been worse, the Second World War and stuff like that. But for our generation, it's the worst thing we've ever had to endure. And sometimes I think it's easy to think that this is it. It's not going to get any better. Especially when we have such an inept and incompetent government who change their mind left, right and centre, say they're following the science and then follow the politics because the Prime Minister wants to be liked. He's the biggest clusterfuck this country has ever had. And we can make 2021 better, but it's us who are going to do it. We can no longer rely on our government, A, to protect us, and B, to act in our interests. They only act in their own interests, and they have knee-jerk reactions which are completely out of date with what's needed. They don't follow the science. So it's down to us to make 2021 a better year. It's down to us to make the future for all our kids, grandkids and great-grandkids better. If we're going to leave something behind, now is when we need to start doing it, start planning it. Make a scrapbook, whatever it is, whether it's tour tickets, whether it's holiday snaps, whatever it is. Don't just keep stuff online. It's nice sometimes to flick through something like a photo album. That's the start. Leave those memories in there. Make little notes. I was going to do that. I might still do that. Make little notes next to your drink. Triple, lovely but too strong was my thing on there. Too sweet and too strong. Zia, one of my beers of the year. Make notes. But for the cost of £6, it's a memory bank. And it's a memory bank that can't be erased when your computer dies or you lose your mobile phone. I've banged on long enough. I really shouldn't. I wasn't going to do this long. What I was going to do was show you getting the lambic ready, but that's going to be a separate video altogether. So for New Year's Eve, we're not going to be partying. We're not really going to be celebrating. There's very little to celebrate about this year, sadly. But what we can do is share with each other the hope that the future can be better. And if we work together collectively, we can ensure the future will be better. But remember, we've got to do pretty much what Chris did at the beginning of this year, which is commit to doing it, commit to making it better. Now's our opportunity to grasp that future, regardless of our incompetent, fuck-witted government. Grasp the future and make it better for everybody. That's it for now. I think that will probably end up being something like the thumbnail. I know. If you enjoy this rubbish, please feel free to subscribe. I'm happy to talk bollocks anytime. I'm ready for after dinner speeches when all this COVID's over. Bar mitzvahs? No, I'm not. Look, wherever you are, whatever you believe, just let's make 2021 something the complete opposite of 2020. Happy New Year, everybody. Cheers.